guys, it's Theresa here of Larkin Design, and welcome back to Scrappy Christmas in July, in which I am going back in time and creating an album about our Christmas from December of 2011. And so this is the first layout in my album. You've seen me create the album itself and then embellish the album cover in the previous videos. And so today I'm going to start the actual layouts in the album. And so I'm starting with a photo that's actually not from the month of December itself. This is something that is a great way to add more of the story to your December albums. And so December, or the year of 2011, was particularly significant in our families because it's the year that Alan and I began dating. And so I took this photo from September of 2011, and it's actually from our first official date. And at this point we had had quite a few play dates and had been hanging out together, and we're pretty much inseparable already. But it was our first official date, just the two of us. And that is important to me because it tells part of the story that this is also our first December together and our first Christmas together. So I'm starting out with the chipboard pieces that have the tab edge, and I also have a piece of patterned paper that's from one of the Maggie Holmes collections, and I've just added some gesso to each of these. I'm just going to give them a little touch of the heat gun so that they'll be good and dry, and then I'm going to start layering my photos and embellishments. And so I know that I'm going to do a bit of sewing. I have this red thread ready on my sewing machine. I'm sorry that the machine takes up so much of the frame. I think I'm having to learn how to balance that out and where to put the machine while I'm filming. And that's okay. So I've got a couple of papers from My Mind's Eye, that little tiny polka dot, and then there's these little branches are from Pink Fresh Studio, and then that little stripe I think is an older October Afternoon. So those are some of the papers that I'm using, and then I also have a vellum. That vellum is from a way back Maggie Holmes collection, probably flea market or one of the really early ones. And so I've just had these in my stash, and I'm just going to use some of that up. And so I'm going to just do a couple of little strips peeking out from underneath the photo itself. I'm just sort of arranging sort of what I want it to look like around the photo, and then I'll adhere it down. I'm also adding this little tab here at the top just for a little bit of visual interest here. And of course the gesso that I already laid down, it provides a little home base for those embellishments. So I'm going to just adhere the layers now, and I'm just a combination of snipping and trimming and tucking. I'm folding up the edges a little bit, and then I ran out of adhesive, so I've got a new adhesive, yay. And I'm just gonna continue my process here. And so I have just a little bit of contrast here. My idea for my design concept for these layouts is a fairly neutral backdrop. The chipboard is fairly neutral. The black and white pattern paper is fairly neutral. And then provide pops of color via the pattern papers. And the red from the sewing machine is also a pop of color. And so I'm doing a zigzag stitch here, just down the side of that lovely vellum, and then on goes the photo. And I'm also doing a couple of little strips at the bottom corner here. And this is really kind of just random. I am going sort of in a diagonal pattern up the page, so your eye goes from the bottom corner to the top, and on the way you'll stop at the photo of us. And again, my apologies that some of this process is cut off. It's sort of not okay. It's kind of bugging me, but that's okay. I am going to use a little label for my title, and the label is from Ali Edwards, and these little alphabets are also from Ali Edwards. I think they're both from last year's December Daily kit, from the main kit from 2016. If they're not from 2016, then they're from 2015. And so the title here is just very simple, First Date. And that's my dog going nuts because there's other dogs in the neighborhood. Alright, and then I've got the stamp set from Ali Edwards, and I'm just going to stamp a couple of sentiments here around the page. And I'm also going to add some puffy hearts because those are my thing right now. And I'm reserving, in case you're curious, I'm reserving the other side for my journaling. So I'm treating these pages sort of almost like a traveler's notebook, right? This is my formula for traveler's notebook layouts as well, where I do photo on one side, journaling on the other. Excellent strategy for your December albums as well. I pulled together that little bowl, and there, I finally moved that sewing machine out of the way. I pulled together a little bowl with all my embellishments and things in it, just random collection of little things that I'm thinking about using, or that I want to use, or that might fit into this album. So you'll see me reach for that bowl quite often. And I have this little wood star. It's from Studio Calico, and adhering that with my glassy accents. And then just a few more stamped sentiments here. I am stamping directly on this vellum. And this Let Your Heart Be Light here, this is going to be a repeated theme throughout this album. And there's a particular meaningful reason behind that. I know that I've talked in the past about how Alan and I blended families, and we both came from some pretty difficult circumstances. And so meeting him and us getting to go out and falling in love and finding a new future together, it really was a chance for us to just let our hearts be light. And so I feel like that encapsulates some of the feelings that we had. It was still hard, and blending our families was still hard work, but there was this, and is in our photos, just this sense of, yay, it's time to be happy, and it's time to have joy and share joy with each other. So, and I'm going to write about that in my journaling as well, about how this is a great year to document December because of that reason. And so this almost becomes my reason why page. I don't always do a reason why page, because I think that the reason why we do these albums is sort of self-evident, right? They're really special memories, and it's the best month of the year. If you love Christmas, December is the best month of the year. So I kind of feel like our reason why is sort of self-evident, but this one is particularly special. And I have long felt like, because I have December albums all the way from 2008 until 2016, with the exception of this one year. And so that would be a gap. Has been a gap missing in our collection of December albums. So definitely lots of good reasons for for completing this. And so I used the gesso as my background for my text. And I just wrote messy lines, no particular margins or anything like that. And I just wrote stream of consciousness, just what was on my heart to write, and then messy underlines. And then I'm going to do a little tiny embellishment cluster at the top of the page and a little bit of stamping. And so I'm just sort of playing around and trying to figure out what I want to do. I thought about that heart, that star, because it repeats the mint color that's on the other side. But it was a little bit too big. So I've decided on this little wooden Christmas tree, and I'm going to adhere that down in a minute. First, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. It's just memories. And the memories stamp is going to sit at the bottom of this Christmas tree. And so this little wooden tree came from the Target Christmas section last year, I think. And then that pretty much, well, let's see, what am I going to do anything else? I think I'm done with this layout, and then I'm going to transition into the next layout. Yep, there it is. So I'm going to put it in the album for you so you can see, and I need to punch the holes for it. There we go. And then I apologize because it looks like that pink and white stripe is part of the layout itself, and it's really not. It's just the pages for the next layout, but it does look kind of cute there. So moving on to the next part of the album, I had this really, really cute picture of Natalie, and so at this time, of course, I was a single mom and would go and pick Nick and Natalie up once a week at their dad's. And so this was a photo from one of those days that I went to pick them up. And on this particular day, I remember it, Natalie just came running towards me, and she was just so excited to see me. And definitely just that, the feeling that I remember from her running towards me and being so excited, it encapsulates December joy, right? And so, of course, this is an important one, an important photo to include. Now, I went to my stash and pulled out some of the Paige Evans collection, and it just left my brain. It just left my brain, so I'm going to have to add that later. But I wanted to use this paper with the brush strokes on it. And since it already has brush strokes, I'm not going to do any gesso on this layout. And then I also have that doily vellum from Maggie Holmes from way back when. And then these little stars. And the stars are from one of Allie Edwards' December Daily kits. And so that's sort of my basis for this layout. I'm not sure how the rest is going to come together yet. But I did pull just a few of the embellishments and things that I think I'm going to include. I looked back in my Allie Edwards stash and found that Glee tab. That is from the Cheer story kit. That story kit is always a good one to draw from for your December albums. And then I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. I know that I want the embellishments to be up here on this corner, and I want that flower to stick up just a little bit. And so one of the things, if you follow me on Pinterest, and let me invite you, go find me on Pinterest, you will see that I have a board for December Daily 2011. And I've been pinning some of Maggie Holmes' December albums and some of her Project Life pages. And you'll see there how she has sort of approached those pockets. She does not actually fill her pockets. She leaves space around the elements inside the pockets. And so I've been a little bit inspired by that. I'm not copying it per se, because I don't think anybody can copy Maggie Holmes. I can't do it justice. But that is sort of my goal. I've always loved having transparent pockets in my December albums. You guys know that about me. I love transparencies, but I'm not using them in the way that I always have in the past. So anyway, all that to say that one pocket is sort of floating, and I'm going to finalize that when I do the next side. But I'm going to sew that black card with the florals on it. I'm going to sew that in place once I know what I'm doing with the next side. So we'll finish that pocket in the next video. And then the pattern paper is the home base for my journaling again. And I'm going to just do, I know that I want to do a cluster of these stars at the bottom, and then the journaling sort of in the center like I had done before. Now I have these lines. This is the Paisley Press stamp set that was in the December offerings last year on the Allie Edwards website. That was a long way of saying that stamp set comes from the Paisley Press December Daily kit. Okay. And so I'm just using the lines from that stamp set, and have those lines ready to go for my journaling, and I'm sort of figuring out the placement for the stars and the other embellishments that I want to use on this side of the layout. Again, I don't want to complicate it. I want to keep it pretty simple. So I'm going to use this, the Joy stamp. It kind of didn't come out dark enough, so I just redid it. And then I'm also going to use the December, so it'll say December Joy. There we go. And Paisley Press also did these little, they're either antlers or they're leaves. They could be either one. But for the purposes of this layout, they're going to be leaves, and they're just little embellishments around the joy. And then I want to do, there's a Dear Santa stamp, and so I use that as well. And now I'm ready to add my journaling. And so I'm just writing about picking Natalie up and how happy she was to see me. That was the story of this layout. And I have not put the stars in place yet. I'm still trying to halfway decide how I want to attach those, because two of them are vellum. The vellum stars are from the Studio Calico Documenter kit from a couple of months ago, and the wood star, I have no idea where that's from. It's probably from Ellie's Studio. And then I'm punching my holes here, and so now I'm thinking about how I want to, because these pages are back to back, so I'm thinking about how I want to attach them. And I know that there's going to be stitching involved, so I'm going to clear off my desk a little bit and grab my sewing machine again. And I'm still on a zigzag stitch, and I'm just going to zigzag down the centers of the two vellum stars. I did not sew the wood star. I didn't want to break my needle, so that one ended up being stapled in place. but you'll see that adds a little bit of contrast to those stars. And it also, because I ran a zigzag stitch going forward, and then I went backwards back over, and it turned out kind of looking like almost like cross stitch. It's a cheater way. It's a cheater way to do cross stitch. Now I thought I would be bold and try that down the edge. I'm gonna use my red line tape here, and again, I'm so sorry that it's off the frame. I'm going to adhere these together with my red line tape so that they'll be sturdy together, and then I'm going to sew that zigzag stitch down, just down the one edge, just down the outside edge here. And so you'll see I went down the side with the zigzag stitch going forward, and then I went over it in reverse, and it didn't go like the last time did. And that's okay. So it's a really messy zigzag, and I love it, and it adds a fun little whimsy here, but again, a nice contrast, and repeats the red. I also wanted to add, I have these little gold hole protectors. I forget what they're called. I've spray painted these with gold. So I'm going to use those, and then I'm going to wrap up this layout. Thanks so much for watching. I do hope you will like and comment and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you back here again soon. Thanks again, you guys. Bye-bye.